Home buyers who want to become lord or lady of the manor have the chance to grab a slice of history when a dilapidated manor house goes under the hammer. Bicton Manor is an abandoned historical Grade II listed property which is poised to go on the market for the first time in almost 60 years. Cornwall Live. Those brave enough to take on such a vast pile would ideally have more than a few DIY skills or at least some power tools and paintbrush. Agents describe it as is one of Cornwall's most historical properties, and it is set in countryside with far-reaching panoramic views into Dartmoor. Cornwall Live reports that it is steeped in history dating back almost 1,000 years and even has a mention in the Domesday Book. Even though the time has come for Ray Davey to put Bicton Manor up for auction, it is clearly still a special place for him, for which he holds fond memories. Image. Greg Martin, Cornwall Live. The imposing house has had notable owners such as Daniel Eliot of Port Eliot fame, Lord Ashburton, William Bingham Baring, and, most recently, Arthur and Dorothy Rickard, who were Cornish farmers. Their nephew, Ray Davey, climbs out of his tractor and greets Greg Martin of Cornwall Live as he arrives at Bicton Manor for a guided tour. "My uncle bought the property in 1967. It was a 90-acre farm at that point. They bought it for the land, not for the house." Bicton Manor is an abandoned historical Grade II listed property which is poised to go on the market for the first time in almost 60 years. Image. Greg Martin, Cornwall Live. Even though the time has come for Ray Davey to put Bicton Manor up for auction, it is clearly still a special place for him, for which he holds fond memories. "My first memories of the house were sitting in front of the fire in that room on Sunday evenings." Ray points to what was once a large bay window, and in tow part of the house which has completely collapsed. Ray grew up on a farm close to Bicton Manor, and would visit his aunt and uncle regularly. Agents describe it as is one of Cornwall's most historical properties, and it is set in countryside with far-reaching panoramic views into Dartmoor. Image. Greg Martin, Cornwall Live. Most read. Deadly RAF Beast Mode fighter jets that will make Putin sweatland in UK. Putin hiding Olympian lover and their 4 children in very secure Switzerland chalet. Meghan Markle's one-word response when asked about first meeting with Kate Middleton. After Arthur died in 2009, Dorothy continued to live in the house by herself, and Ray would visit her every day, up until she passed away in December 2020. Aged 85. The eastern end of Bicton Manor, the newest part of the house, added in 1850, collapsed over the last 20 years after the roof deteriorated. With so many rooms, Dorothy just moved into the older part of the property, keeping her distance from the crumbling walls. The imposing house has had notable owners such as Daniel Eliot of Port Eliot fame, Lord Ashburton, William Bingham Baring, and, most recently, Arthur and Dorothy Rickard, who were Cornish farmers. Image. Greg Martin, Cornwall Live. Don't miss. Man finds mystery box inside wall with do not release carved into it. Mom left to starve and almost pass out on 9-hour BA flight with pitiful meal. Inside 4-bedroom home on the market for £195,000 that hasn't sold for 4 years. BBC presenter Clive Myrie escapes Kyiv as he shares devastating message about Ukraine. Seeing an old photograph of her on top of a chest of drawers, I ask Ray if his auntie, a woman in her 80s living all by herself in such a derelict-looking manor house, ever found it spooky. She always said she was never frightened of being here. Ray says, assuring me that there are no ghosts of lords roaming the corridors before leaving me to wander them alone. What Bicton Manor lacks in ghosts, it more than makes up for in history. After Arthur died in 2009, Dorothy continued to live in the house by herself. Image. Greg Martin, Cornwall Live. Published in 1086, the Domesday Book records a manor at Bicton. The lord of the manor was Cyneston of Broadwoodwidger up until the Norman conquest in 1066. It was given to Count Robert of Mortain, who became its tenant-in-chief, receiving tax from the new lord of the manor, Reginald of Vautortas. Nobody is certain what, if anything, remains of the 11th century manor, but in its Grade II listing. The eastern end of Bicton Manor, the newest part of the house, added in 1850, collapsed over the last 20 years after the roof deteriorated. Image, Greg Martin, Cornwall Live. Historic England describes the central part of Bicton Manor as being circa 1660s to 80s and probably remains of unfinished mansion built for Daniel Eliot. Born in 1646, Daniel Eliot of Port Eliot was an MP for St. Germans in the latter part of the 17th century. The listing continues. Extended on left-hand gable end and to rear in late c. 18. Extended on right-hand gable end in 1850. Datestone, probably for Lord. Previous owners are confirmed in Jasper Polsu's 1867 book A Complete Parochial History of the County of Cornwall, in which it records of Bicton Manor. It was next sold to the Elliots of Port Eliot. Nobody is certain what, if anything, remains of the 11th century manor. Image, Greg Martin, Cornwall Live. Daniel Eliot, ESQ, began to build a new mansion on the estate, Temp. Charles II, but it was never completed. The entrance hall of the old house was allowed to remain. The walls were remarkably thick, and contained many Gothic doorways, which led to several apartments. Polsu continues. The arms of Bicton, as it was then spelt, namely, azure, a fess between 3 or 4, fleur-de-lis in chief, and as many annulets in base, or, sculpted in granite, have been preserved and placed over the doorway. Historic England described the central part of Bicton Manor as being circa 1660s to 80s. Image, Greg Martin, Cornwall Live. This coat of arms can be seen today, above the doorway of the newer part of the house. Polsu goes on to write, Bicton remained in the Eliot family until 1848, when the Earl of S. Germans sold it to the late Lord Ashburton, and the Dowager Baroness the present owner. Although the Baroness, Lady Ashburton Lucia Baring, may have been the present owner in 1867, she almost certainly didn't live there. It seems that most of Lord Ashburton's properties were soon passed on to Francis Baring, and then to Francis' son, Alexander Hugh Baring, the 4th Baron. Ashburton, who is recorded as selling the Devon and Cornwall estates in 1873. Published in 1086, the Domesday Book records a manor at Bicton. Image, Greg Martin, Cornwall Live. One last line of interest about Bicton Manor in Joseph Polsu's 1867 book states that, in the orchard, supposed to have been the ancient burying ground, human bones were frequently dug up. As well as the history of Bicton Manor that has been documented in books, there is plenty of more recent history still to be found. Sam Turner, area manager and property auctions manager for Cavell's, who are selling Bicton Manor, said, Bicton Manor represents one of Cornwall's most historic manor houses and is steeped in Cornish heritage. I am delighted to present this historic and charming residence for auction. Set within a wonderful backdrop, the property and its grounds boast spectacular, undulating views across to Dartmoor and beyond, and as the county's most successful property auctioneers, it is a privilege to sell Bicton Manor on behalf of my client. Bicton Manor has an auction guide price of £395,000 minus £425,000. Image, Greg Martin, Cornwall Live. The property has received both national and international interest to date, and I look forward to what promises to be a spectacular evening on Wednesday, 30th March at Lifton Strawberry Fields, when the property goes under the gavel in what promises to be another bustling Cavell's auction. Bicton Manor has an auction guide price of £395,000 minus £425,000, and will be sold by public auction on Wednesday the 30th of March 2022 at Lifton Strawberry Fields, Lifton, Devon PL 160DE at 7 p.m. Read more. Mum transforms hallway with £270 LED flower wall inspired by Katie Price. Read more. Couple create stunning corner seat for £100 with free wood destined for the tip.